Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Office Hours. That's not usually how I start this, but here we are. We're here in Office Hours. I have Ryan and Scott with me here today. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey.
Thanks.
Certainly,
Always happy to be here.
We already have a couple of questions from Leandro Souza here on YouTube, and I'm going to get to that in 1 second. But I wanted to mention this sweatshirt that I have on. This was just recently the 10th year at that conference. If you joined us for Office Hours last week, we broadcast from there, Ryan and I did. And I'm just curious. I asked this in the Slack. I guess I have to back up. If you guys aren't in the Slack, you can find that at alexa.design/Slack. But I asked it in the Slack yesterday, what are the events that you're looking forward to going to once the world is fully open and back to normal? Who knows when that will be, but some events have started going back in person, and that conference was the first one that I've been to. It was last week in Wisconsin. But I have another event coming up called Codepalooza. If you guys haven't been to that one, that's coming up at the end of August. And then there's another one that I'm going to called Tech Bash, and that's in Pennsylvania in mid to late October. So if you're looking for a software development conference to go and be in person and learn from people in person, check those two out specifically, but there are many, many more coming up. There's one of my favorites is called Code Mash. That's in January. There's going to be another that conference down in Texas in early January as well. And then an event I help run called Stir Trek will be in May. So lots and lots of good stuff coming. Not to mention all the other big stuff, right? Like reInvent's coming up this fall and CE in January. Lots and lots of cool stuff coming. So just wanted to share that with all of you. And if you want to check out those events, search them up. Codepalooza, Tech Bash, Code Mash, Stir Trek, that conference. They're all out there and fantastic events to learn new skills. Okay, so Leandro Souza says, I'm using in my skill the reprompt command, and I want that my skill session remains open until the reprompt timeout, but the Alexa certification team is always failing my skill submission. The team asked me to use should end session attribute to true. Please, why must I use the should end session attribute to true? Do you have an example? My skill is mascotes olímpicos. I'm guessing that's Olympic mascots. If I have to translate a language I don't know. That would be my guess. But I'm going to start with you on that, Scott. It seems like he has a skill reprompt, and he wants the skill to remain open until the reprompt times out. It seems like natively that's how a skill works, right? And for everybody that's tuned in, just a quick recap of how this works. You talk to a skill. It says something back to you, generally a question. Once the question finishes asking, you get about 7 seconds in which to respond. And if you don't say anything in those 7 seconds, then the developer can provide a reprompt, which is only played if you don't respond at all. That reprompt is played, and then you get another 7 seconds. But if you don't say anything in either of those 7-second windows, then the skill says, oh, they must not be around, and it closes the microphone and it ends the session. So what I get from Leandro here, what I'm reading from the question, is that I want my skill session to remain open until the reprompt timeout, and I feel like that is true. So it's not clear to me what the issue is, other than that you're failing skill submission. And it feels to me like if you're saying should end session attribute, if they're telling you to set it to true, the only time that you really need to do that is when you're trying to end the conversation. So I have examples of this throughout all of my skills. When you say goodbye, I have some clever, witty response, maybe a Star Wars quote or some funny goodbye quip. And so you say goodbye, and I say like, oh, may the force be with you. And then it sends a should end session equals true, and that closes the thing. So there's not another question. So Leandro, I don't know if you can give us some more clarity on what your question is. Scott, is there anything else you glean from that you might want to contribute?
To be honest, like that's a hard and fast rule. That's something that we can't really change, and it's part of like the major of the whole structure of how skills work. They're real careful when it comes to microphones being open.
Right.
That's what I will say, is that if your mic is open, and I mean, if it's longer than it's supposed to be, or not necessarily supposed to be, but like longer than it should be, or that you were expecting, they're going to fail it.
Right.
They're always watching that real hard. So keeping the mic on when there's no response is going to cause a failure. Straight across. That's a really easy way to remember. It's just because there's so much going on with how much information we take, and that's about right. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay, I'm going to share a link here, maybe if I can get to it, because there was a new thing announced at Alexa Live. I don't know if Scott, if you've seen any skills come through yet with this, because it is developer preview, so I don't know that they can be published yet. But one of the new things that we announced was adaptive mic timeout. This might be something for Leandro to look into as well, which is the ability here. I'll post the link in the comments here. This is to the actual form if you have interest in trying to use this feature. But it's called adaptive mic timeout, and basically it's the ability to allow the default. I guess it's 5 seconds. I said 7 seconds, but the default is 5 seconds, and you can provide users up to 10 seconds to respond in specific situations. So we're getting more variable with that, but there's still an end, right? There's still always a time that this microphone needs a timeout.
Yeah, there's got to be some changing in how that works. I don't know. I know that they're currently talking about doing about changing some of this stuff for accessibility issues, just for the fact that not everybody can speak at the pace that we are giving them that time for. So that is kind of being worked on. I don't know. I don't know what that means or looks like, but I know that as it stands right now, like, that's not gonna, the microphone being on is always gonna be a cause for them to watch, watch what the skills do.
I mean, I think that makes sense. That's one of people's biggest fears when they think about buying a voice assistant, even a cell phone anymore.
Yep.
Is will I be able to know when this thing is listening to me? And with Alexa, we've been very, very conscious about this fact. There's a big light on all of them, even the ones with screens. There's a clear, obvious display element that shows you that it's listening. There's also hardware microphone buttons, so you can actually hardware disconnect the microphone, not software disconnect the microphone. So there's a lot of things like that that really play into that privacy and security feature, because we know that that's important to people, and we want to make sure that that's something that everybody can feel at ease about. Ryan, there was a question about your T-shirt. They want to know if that might be your Bitcoin login password.
No, unfortunately. It is a C-Tech Astronomy T-shirt, though.
Oh, wow.
Anyone who knows what that reference is.
C-Tech is, that is some deep referencing there, sir. Good work.
Thank you. Yes. Wow. I would like to see the reference in the.
Yeah, I know what it is, but if somebody
don't share. Yeah.
So this is something that I'm learning about, Ryan, and I feel like there is a game, an Alexa game that you could create, which is deep movie references.
Obscure movie references?
Yeah. And so, like, you play a quote or something, and people have to figure out what movie that's from by guessing. Because I will tell you, I got my first real week to ever spend with Ryan while we were at that conference. And the T-shirts and the just obscure movie quotes that came out of this person was just, it was amazing to me. It was quite enjoyable to spend some time with him this week and learn a little bit more about what makes this guy tick. And I enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah, and you regret bringing me on the team, I'm sure.
Completely. Actually, I sent a couple emails, so this is actually your last office hours. I apologize.
The random stuff that gets stuck in my head, I can't explain, but
I love it.
I enjoy it, so it makes me unique.
I have no shortage of that myself.
But I do like your suggestion. I will take note of this, and maybe this is a skill I can be working on.
Yeah, I think that would be a cool one. The trick is with trivia games that have open-ended answers, I'm not going to give you any hints yet, but you're going to come at me later and be like, how do I actually know if they got it right or wrong? Like there's some things nuance to that. Because you have an infinite number of answers. I'm interested to see how you solve that. Okay, so Tristan Wasser on Facebook said, hello, since I have Alexa, there are two things that I regret very much. The inability to collect a family Spotify account, and everyone can request your calendar, contact, call someone, control your devices while Alexa recognizes our voices, but it does not use them to block our personal information or to personalize the speaker's Spotify account. It's a shame when Google's doing it. Okay, that's a valid criticism. I think that's fair. I appreciate your feedback there. I will tell you that one of the challenges we have with providing all of the different music providers is that each of them provides us different endpoints, different access, whatever. And so I think if it were up to us entirely, I think that we would have the same experience for Apple Music, for Amazon Music, for Spotify, for Last.fm, like all of them would have a very similar experience. But we don't always have the ability to interact with those services in the same way. Obviously, we have full direct access to Amazon Music, and Apple Music has been surprisingly open and easy to work with. From my personal experience, I don't actually know what it's like behind the scenes. But Spotify, I have heard a lot of things, especially when you start to mix Spotify with Alexa and Sonos, all of those three things together. There's a lot of like weirdness that happens because of software rules or things that have been blocked or functionality that isn't possible. So Tristan, I appreciate your feedback, and I will add this to our list. But and it may very well be something that we have done poorly. But keep in mind, it might also not be us. So I will. I'll look into that and see if I can't get better answers. Q311 says I have a game skill grid battle. I use like shoot at D3. That kind of sounds like a Milton Bradley game called Battleship. That's what I'm hearing. And he got a message back from Amazon to improve my skill. Let's see. It said this, so this might be a Scottism. Correct tokenization errors. Errors in the tokenization of acronyms and initialisms can grow. Oh yeah. This is a good one. Quick definition lesson for everyone. All acronyms are initialisms, but not all initialisms are acronyms. And the difference between those two things, an initialism is like FBI, right? Everybody's heard of FBI. We say FBI. We know it stands for Federal Bureau of Investigation. But that's actually not an acronym. And I didn't know that. I thought that anything that you called out as its letters was a acronym. In fact, that's not how it works at all. An acronym, an initialism, is something like FBI. SCUBA, on the other hand, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, that is both an initialism and an acronym. And the reason it's an acronym is because you pronounce it. We don't pronounce FBI. We pronounce SCUBA. And so that's the difference between an acronym and initialism. I don't know if you guys ever knew that, but that's the difference between those two. Also, I learned a new acronym the other day. You have SCUBA, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, but did you guys know that TUBA is an acronym? It's terrible underwater breathing apparatus, and I think that's amazing. That made me laugh.
Speaking of terrible,
Ryan had to leave the screen. He knew it was coming.
I had to.
He must follow Hank Green on TikTok. That's all right.
I was like, where have I heard that from? But yes, It was Hank Green, wasn't it?
That's where I picked it up. I don't know that he wrote it, but that's where I heard it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the person Q311 is, they're getting feedback that you should either provide your initialisms as lowercase with a period and a space for all of your different initialisms. So anytime you're saying something like D3 or FBI, and you have this as a slot value, anything that you want someone to be able to say, you should always represent them as F period space, B period space, I period. And they should all be lowercase. Capitalization actually kind of confuses it. It uses those cases as information about how it might pronounce or interpret those words. And so if people are spelling things out for you, you should use the description that I just write, right? F period space, B period space, I period. That is the way that you should represent an initialism, because it can create confusion and you will greatly impact, as it says, the speech recognition on those terms. Scott, have you seen any other examples of this?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if you're talking about a word like scuba, you actually don't need any of the initialisms or periods or anything. You should just provide the word scuba, SCUBA, all lowercase, as your slot value. Again, there really isn't a reason to provide capitalization as your slot values, because that should only be used as an interpretive value to compare what the user said to what you're expecting. So if you find yourself capitalizing, I did this for a long time. And if we look at some of my old skills, all of my slot values were full capitalization. I don't know why I did that. I just did. I think it was readability maybe in the JSON or something like that, but it actually does affect how good the speech recognition is going to be. So as much as you can, you should use lower cases. And if you're talking about an initialism or acronym, the acronym, you should just use the word. If you're talking about an initialism like FBI, you should spell it out with periods and spaces. Okay. Hopefully that helps Q311. Let's see. Father Goblin says, we're doing dad jokes now? Yeah, sorry.
Yes, we are.
I mean, it is true, though. A tuba would be a terrible underwater breathing apparatus. But it is a pretty bad dad joke. Okay. Let's see. Oxygen Box says, for the first time since I've been developing skills, I got my first significant AWS charge. I'm assuming this is due to the new promotional credits policy. Who can I direct an inquiry to? Well, the total's not huge. I don't know if I could justify paying it monthly, especially when my skills generate no income. Is there some grandfather situation for existing skills, suggestions to avoid charges? I really don't feel like I want to have to pull down my skills. I feel a bit betrayed. I feel you there, man. I'm with you. So what my recommendation would be is almost word for word. I would take this paragraph that you just sent to me, and I would send it in through our Contact Us form. I know that they have made special exceptions for people. I don't know how regularly that can happen, but I would reach out and talk to the team there, because I don't have the power to pull those strings, but there are a number of folks behind that Contact Us form that can. And so that is where I would start. QU311 also says it would be helpful if there was an Amazon.alphabet. Yes, I have built many representations of an alphabet for my needs, but there's a lot of situations that barking isn't going to stop. So what I'm going to let you guys do is talk a little about Amazon Alphabet, or if you want to take the next question, I've got to go deal with that. I'll be right back.
I also have very large, very loud dogs, and I completely understand his tribulations right now.
Yes.
It's insane. Murphy is 120 pounds and 11 months old, and he is very, very loud. He's a Leon Burger St. Bernard mix, so he shakes the windows when he barks. It's insane. Let's see here.
I have two dogs as well, but they were playing earlier, and now they're dead asleep. So we should be good there.
So I had too much stuff after that conference that I did. I warned you, Ryan, leave a little room in your suitcase so you can bring some things home. I did not take that advice. And as a result, I had to mail myself a box, and that box just arrived. And apparently my dog and my sister's dog, who we're watching right now, both decided that guy was a threat and needed to bark at him until he left.
Saved your life.
That's the thing.
They believe in the power of barking.
They bark at someone to keep them away, to protect the house, and she's still batting 100%, right? Like every time they go away.
It still works.
It's a little confirmation bias for her, I think, but man.
Yeah.
All right, where did we leave off? Amazon.alphabet doesn't exist, but it would be kind of cool. This is another thing that I'm going to implore the community to think about. Those of you that are familiar with APL Ninja, you can go there. It's apl.ninja. It's an awesome repository where people that have built cool APL documents share them. I feel like there's an opportunity for people to do the same thing with slot and interaction model stuff. So if you build a cool slot, why not share it? Like, it's just JSON, right? You should be able to share that someplace and make it available. And I wish there was like a communal place where you could find all sorts of interesting slot values that are easily structured, and I could just go grab them. Because then someone could build an alphabet slot and you could grab it and use it however you want. Zavodop says he has that in some of his gists, like all the Pokemons in one list. That's super cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
Is that right? It's like all the Pokemon, right? Plural of Pokemon is Pokemon.
No, look, there are two kinds of people in this world, Jeff. It is the Pokemon and the Pokemon.
Ooh.
There are two different kinds.
Which one am I? What did I say?
You said the Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Yeah. Oh, what was it?
Pokemon?
Yeah, there you go. So for me, it was Pokemon.
Yeah.
For years. but
it's hard. I mean, it's based on the word pocket monsters, right?
yeah, I don't know.
So
I was just at the right age to miss that entirely. And
oh, me too. Yeah, we're both in our early to mid 40s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just a little too old for that, and like Magic the Gathering and all that stuff, I just missed it.
See, it just happened when I
do it.
Yeah. I played Magic the Gathering for 20 minutes.
Nice.
And then it was cool and I liked it, but then it got really popular and it got taken over by all the nerds.
Right.
And so of course I couldn't do it.
Right. And now here we are, all a bunch of nerds. So it's cool.
Yeah, I'm wearing an Eagle Fang karate t-shirt.
Right.
I mean, that's
exactly. I wasn't a nerd. I was actually a 3-sport athlete in high school. But here I am standing in front of a bunch of
right
greens, right? Like I've come full circle.
Yep.
All right. So
I am glad to see the wall is reconstructed and
oh yeah, hey,
glorious. So.
We'll give you a fuller view. Look at that. And so this whole bottom shelf now is going to be devices. The only one plugged in is Spinny McTurney here. But the rest of them, they're not plugged in yet because I have these clever cabinets. I can't do mirror. There's a cabinet here. There's a cabinet way down here. And then there's one on this end too. The two on the end are my hidden power solutions. And so what I have to do is I have to drill holes. Here we can show you. These fancy little like silicone grommets.
Yeah.
I have to drill the holes in this desk surface, and then all the wires will feed down through these little grommets, and then the wires will feed down into the cabinets where there's a big
is that a fridge?
Big
that's power supply.
Oh wow.
So there's one on each end, and that lets me run all the wires into that. And that, like the lights that are on here and the lights that go around, those are already plugged in, and obviously this guy's plugged in. But the rest of them, I haven't even drilled the holes yet. They make a huge mess. So I have some work to do with like getting the shop vac and the drill going at the same time, so I'm not just throwing sawdust everywhere. But we'll get there. That's a this week project sometime.
You got a gas generator powering that thing, or is it like solar panels along with like wind turbines?
You've seen the big wind turbines you see like in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I have 4 of those on my roof. Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
No, honestly, I checked. The Echo devices don't actually draw a lot of power, which is good.
No, those are all LED lights too.
This is all LED lighting, so it's pretty lightweight. So no, I mean my power bill is not even slightly out of control, so I feel like I'm okay. And this room probably is half the power of my house, so yeah, that's good. Okay, spam risk. I'm going to answer that. Okay. W. Giorgio says, speaking of tokenization, I have a part of a skill that I have all of the alphabet as a slot value. If I use E or W, they will not use my slots, thinking it's east or west. Wow. Even though you're not using a slot value that would suggest that at all. So you've spelled out all the words, including E and W, but when they say W, you receive the word west.
Is this an automotive skill?
He does not indicate as such.
No. Okay.
Let's see.
Wow. That's a weird one. That's a definite contact us case.
Yeah. That's something that should be flagged. So W. Georgia, I'd recommend sending in a contact us form for that, and they can dig into that for you. Because that certainly isn't the expected behavior.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, that's weird.
KL New wants to know on Facebook if we're considering including face recognition to personalize the user experience in front of the Echo Show, like Google does with Face Match. I think it's fair to say that we're probably considering it. I don't know for sure, but it seems very unlikely that we're not at least considering it. The real question here is when or if could we have those features? Those are not answers that we have here on Office Hours. But I do know that the device already, from an Amazon perspective, can do some of that, right? Especially this device that can rotate. I call him Spinny McTurney here. But this device specifically can track you, right? So it's not necessarily using facial recognition, but it is able to represent a human body shape and track you as you move. And I think that things like facial recognition, are just a natural next step in some of these things. The catch is, and again, this is the catch with everything that we do in ambient computing, is how far is too far? Are we recognizing your face just to make it secure? Are we recognizing your face for what? And then do we allow developers to do that as well? Because one example is I can do voice recognition. I can do a bunch of interesting stuff with my voice from a first-party perspective. But when we start talking about what can I do with my voice or with my face for any developer, right? We've never exposed the camera to any third-party developers at all because we're concerned about what will happen with that. So there's lots and lots of interesting things to figure out there. One thing I would love to see, Ryan and I were talking about TikTok earlier. I mean, an Echo Show is like the perfect TikTok device. You already have it on a countertop. You can get it to turn and face you. You can get it to follow you. It can record video and audio. It seems like a perfect device for that application, but that would require us to expose the camera and actually allow that recording to be captured by a third party that could then use that video in whatever way they deem necessary. And for TikTok, they're going to use it for the right reasons, but there's 1,000 other skills that might not be as pleasant with how they use your data. And so we have to be really, really cautious about that. And so to this point, we just have decided not to expose it. And I think, Scott, you and I have talked about this before, but the internet as a whole and software in general was so much better before there were bad actors. Like I think back to like the first websites I built in like 94, 95, and just how carefree we were. It was just like this cool experiment. We're just going to build some stuff. You weren't worried about somebody hacking the database and getting a bunch of credit, mostly because you couldn't do that. But like there was a lot of that just was so much cooler. And now every bit of software you ever build, like you set up a simple blog, and for sure someone's going to try to like do a whole bunch of SQL injection on your database to try to fill it up, right? It's nonsense to me how awful bad actors have become, but there's money in it. So I guess
it's funny. My friends and I, we used to sit around and think up website names and see if they existed. We would just type words in and type .com afterwards and see if it would go there. And sometimes it did, and it was hilarious. And
Scott, this is an incredible party game on Alexa.
Yep.
Just hook up to like a Whois database API.
Yep.
God, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Okay. That might be fun.
There was another game. Oh yeah. So I don't think we've talked about this on Office Hours, and I can't. It's called. I think it's called Hello Robot or something like that. But this is a game that you can play with your assistant, whether it's Google or Alexa or whatever. And the idea is you're given a word or phrase, a short phrase, and your job, you get one shot, is to talk to the assistant, say something, and get it to say the word or phrase back to you. So in general, that's not terribly hard, but you have to get it to actually say the word. So one might be...
yeah, give an example here.
Let's think of a good example. Over the rainbow.
I'm intrigued.
Over the rainbow is the phrase on your card. So now you have to figure out what is the thing that I can say to the assistant. I'll use Alexa in this example. What is the thing I can say to Alexa that would result in her saying something that includes the words over the rainbow in that order? So you have to be like, what are the lyrics to, and you can say, I think you're not allowed to say the words yourself. So you could say something like, what are the lyrics to the main song from The Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, what is the main song to The Wizard of Oz?
Right. And you just hope that that's what she says.
Yeah.
And then you get points if you get the card. You know, that's the basic idea behind the game. But I thought it was kind of a clever way to play with an assistant, to try to get it to respond the way you want.
That'd be cool.
It's not a skill.
Buttons. It'd be cool to have buttons for that.
Yeah. No, it's not a skill. This is just
it's like a board game. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Awesome.
And so the cards, I mean, you could probably come up with like all the cards from Cards Against Humanity. You could use those as the game. But they do sell one called...
Yeah, don't use those.
Maybe not that game.
Don't do that game.
But in general, you can get the idea. Like there's probably a board game you have in your house that has a whole bunch of terms on it. Pictionary or something like that. You could probably use it for this game. Same idea.
And you're saying this exists already, or this is an idea of yours?
No, this game exists. If I go to Amazon,
I think because this sounds like some IP right now.
Hello Robots, I think is what it's called. No, I'm not finding the game. My sister has this, and I can't remember what it's called. I'll try looking at one more thing before we move on, because I know we have more questions. Oh, it's called Hey Robot.
Hey Robot.
But it's a really neat concept for another way to use your voice-enabled devices.
Yeah, plus what we're learning from it too. I bet it really messes up the algorithm though.
Yeah, you're just asking all these random.
Really messes up, or people are getting these like reports as to these weird new things that people are saying, and nobody has any idea as to why they're asking Alexa this.
Right. All right. The next question comes from Startup Sanatana, which is he's based in India. Ryan, he wants to know about your hexagonal lights.
Yeah, these are Nanoleaf lights, Nanoleaf shapes, hexagon, and they change all kinds of other colors.
Yeah, I haven't hung them yet.
You can get them to respond to music and so on.
This space
you had
under
some triangles.
This bottom shelf here, I have the triangles. This is the Nanoleaf triangles. They come apart. Each one is its own piece, and then you just snap them together with a little communications tab, this thing here. And I think I have 15 or 20 of them that stack across. They come in sets. And then there's a little control panel that attaches at the bottom. Maybe you can see that. Yeah. Do you have your control panel on one of them there? I don't see it.
Yeah, it's actually on this one here.
Oh, okay.
Over there.
So, yeah, they come in different shapes, but they're made by a company called Nanoleaf. Yeah, and I
love them.
Q311, getting back to you. So do I have to change my slot type to say like A dot space instead of A? And yes, that is what they're recommending. G Gross VI on Twitch says, I'm learning how to create skills. Can you suggest a best practice on how to put on Git or GitHub? I'm using Node to create skills. Thanks. So I think what you're trying to figure out is how do I put my code on GitHub? This isn't necessarily an Alexa thing, but I believe GitHub has a fantastic tutorial. I gotta remember where this is. GitHub is like a whole learning lab.
Yep, I've got it.
Yeah, it's lab.github.com.
You got it.
That's where I was. And that, was that a...
That was me, sorry.
That was a noise. I'm just posting lab.github.com. I would recommend checking that out. Their first couple of tutorials will walk you through the basics, which for the most part, if you're working on an Alexa skill by yourself, that should cover the majority of it, right? Being able to git push and push your stuff out to GitHub and do all that, it's pretty straightforward. And it'll also walk you through the things that you need installed on your machine, right? Because you actually need Git installed. You'll want the GitHub CLI available, that kind of stuff.
I think to take that a step further, though, to like, how do I package up a skill and put it on GitHub? I think that's also kind of the next step of like learning how the skill package is structured, learning how the directories are and how you can check those in. I think you have, Jeff, a really good example of like, was it Alexa skill template? Like just kind of like a base template that you can, I've used it a couple times now. You just
nice.
Clone that repo and then use that as your starting point for building out the skill. And it has everything you need. And then it becomes super trivial to keep that in sync with GitHub.
Right. So what Ryan is getting at is when you use the Alexa CLI, you can type in ask new and create a new skill. But there are other properties you can add to that to say, well, I want to create a new skill, but I want to use this GitHub repository. And as long as that GitHub repository has the right structure, right, it has the right files to represent the Ask SDK, then you're good. And it'll be able to pull it in and create a new project for you. If you pointed at just a random GitHub repo, it's not going to work. But so what I did is I built a skill with all the pieces and parts and helper functions and all the things that I need inside the code. And then I ripped all the logic out and I committed that as its own GitHub repo. And then I just use that as my starter every time because it has a bunch of other stuff baked in that I don't then have to go create every single time that I want to start a new skill. So That's awesome, Ryan. I'm glad you've used that. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of forking it and then adding some helper text in a README file to make it a little bit more consumable so that I can remember.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Lennon Leon on YouTube says, I've been having some issues running my Alexa skill serverless, running locally, not for testing purposes. Do you guys have a step-by-step tutorial how to do it? Lennon, let me make sure that I understand this. So you're saying running locally, not for testing purposes. So you actually want to have your local machine be the back end for your skill. I think that's what I'm hearing you say. My first instinct is don't do that. That concerns me with reliability and a number of other things, right? Your laptop isn't a server. If you do have a server in your home, if you have a consistent IP address or domain name that points to that, you could use those to point directly to that thing. But you would still need some sort of web server to expose that running on that server.
That
You
would
would
be
also look
really
at
difficult to
containerizing
pull
the whole thing. What was that, Scott?
That would be really difficult to pull off.
I mean, it's certainly doable, but I think it's a lot of extra work, and I don't believe that we offer a step-by-step tutorial, mostly because if you run it on AWS or you use Alexa hosted, in both of those cases, it's not going to cost you any money anyway.
Yeah.
And you get all the flexibility and reliability of AWS that you don't get from one server under your desk. So, Lennon Leon, I hope maybe we talked you out of that. If you're trying to avoid costs, there aren't going to be any costs. So that would be my first step for you. But I'd love to know more about why you want to do this. There's 1,000 reasons why you might. But I'd be curious to know. Agency 2 wants to know, do I need to pay a monthly fee for Amazon Pay? Do you guys happen to know the answer to that question? If you just want to have an Amazon Pay account that would allow you to receive money, do you have to pay a fee to have that? I don't think so.
I don't think you do.
So.
I don't think you do, and I don't think that it costs to implement it either. Oh man, this is a policy question. All these questions always get sent over to a different person, so I never answer them.
And the thing when I think about Amazon Pay is that I don't believe that, let's imagine I have a small corner store and I want to accept credit cards. I create a vendor account with some vendor that accepts credit cards, and they give me a machine, and we go through the whole process. What I pay is only on the transaction. Most of the time when you see a credit card transaction contract, it's like 10 cents per transaction plus 2.9% of whatever the transaction was. My understanding is that Amazon Pay works exactly the same way, with almost exactly the same percentages. So it would surprise me that you would have to have a monthly fee or an annual fee to have access. That seems weird to me.
Makes sense. It makes sense for like some of your enterprise clients, sure, right. But like I don't think for your regular person, I don't think it's going to make any. I don't think they're gonna. It doesn't sound right, and I don't remember any kind of subscription stuff coming up. Right. I've tried to dabble with it, so.
So Agency 2, I know you've reached out to me about this. I didn't have any answers. All I have is my instinct. But this is something. If you fill out a contact us form, they should at least be able to help you answer this question.
Yep.
They have the resources to find those answers for you, and they just want to be able to do a demo and have a test account. I think if you're going to run payments through, I think that if you have an account, then you can run test transactions through. They're flagged a specific way. But no, I don't believe that you should have to pay for Amazon Pay just for having it. That seems odd to me.
I don't think you do. I'm just looking at the getting started page.
Yeah. James Poulter on LinkedIn said, Jeff and team, a request, is there any way of having a skill invoke a playlist from Amazon Music? I don't believe that there is today, although I could see custom tasks and some of those things allowing that maybe in the future. And I think the trick for that, and for any music really, is that you don't have any guarantees about what the user, your customer, your user, what music they have access to.
Mm-hmm.
And so granting them access to a playlist or an album or anything like that, just trying to play it, could lead to a very negative experience if they don't have the right access to the music you're trying to get to play for them.
I know that you can play your own playlists. So I can say, like, Alexa, play my work playlist on Spotify.
Yeah, but what he wants is for the skill to kick it off.
From a skill.
Which means that the skill was created and defined by the developer, not by the user. And they just want to be able to play that their own. Like, I create, as the developer, I create a playlist, and now my users, when they're playing in my game or skill or whatever, I want to be able to kick off that playlist that I created. I think it's mostly just like an account management challenge more than anything else.
You know, if you needed a specific playlist, it seems like what you might be shooting for is ease of access, because it's real easy for me to go to Spotify and load up a playlist, you know. But if you needed, you could just add it to like a database, you know, or maybe not necessarily a database, but like something that has a specific file at a specific time. That's a little bit more complex, but
yeah. Most of this problem comes down to the fact that we're talking about copyrighted material. That's really
and that's really what it comes
to. Because if you had royalty-free music that you wanted to be able to share with your users, you could play that right through your skill,
sure,
right? Without even leaving the experience. It's when we want to be able to hear the latest song from whatever a modern name is. Kesha, yeah. Well, why do we keep talking about Kesha? Kesha keeps coming.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Have you looked at my playlist? Do you know that it's like 30% Kesha? Did you?
I don't. I have no idea what you're talking about. Even.
All right.
You have to go.
So I don't have a great answer for you on that one, unfortunately, James. Milton wants to know if there's still a way to develop for buttons now that the Echo Buttons skill API is gone. Not that I'm aware of. Unfortunately, things
didn't get picked up. People didn't, which is a shame. I loved the buttons.
I did too.
I loved it.
I loved
the buttons. 10 of them.
It was such a great idea. And they changed color, and you could change the different. You could have each person have different colors and stuff. Oh, it was awesome. I loved the buttons.
I think it's one of those things that we're going to find out was ahead of its time.
Yeah,
and there will be a new iteration of that shows up 3 years from now.
Yeah,
because I think there's still a lot of opportunity for that. I honestly think the next iteration of buttons should be your mobile phone. So in the Alexa app, you say you want to play the game at somebody's house, I don't know, via Bluetooth or whatever it connects to the device. And so I just have it sitting on the table, and it just shows a button or press or whatever. And when I do it, I just tap my screen and boom, fires off a signal to the device. And it's like, oh, Jeff rang in first. I could see phones being the next deal for that.
Yeah, if we ever get 5G.
I'm not making any promises. That's completely out of my head. That's probably not on any development roadmap anywhere, but it would be cool. And actually, you as a developer could build that yourself. If you built your own mobile app and your skill could talk to the back end of that mobile app, then you wouldn't need Bluetooth or anything. A good example of this kind of work being done is the folks over at Jackbox Games.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys haven't seen the work they're doing, Ryan, this is something I was thinking about kicking off office hours with in the future, is playing a short Jackbox Games game. They have Alexa-based ones, but they also have a lot where you can just join with your phone. Games like Drawful and a bunch of other stuff. And you just play, your controller is your phone. And so up on the TV, it'll just show a 4-digit code. Everybody joins that game on their phone, and then they all play together. But you didn't have to like do any Bluetooth connections or setup or tech nonsense. They just go to a browser, type in a code, and now they're playing the game with everybody else in the room. It's awesome.
That kind of game interface to me is awesome. I have an Oculus Quest 2, and there's a game on there called Acron, Acron. That's Attack of the Squirrels. Nice. And you put the goggles on, and you are a tree, this massive giant tree, who with hands, and you have these giant wooden hands, and you can like pick up the squirrels, and your friends are the squirrels who are trying to come and steal your acorns, and they play on their phone.
Yeah,
the squirrel game is entirely on your phone, and so like while I'm playing in the game, I've got these 5 little squirrels running up trying to steal my acorns, and I'm just like smashing them and throwing them and doing all kinds. It's like the best interface. I want 25 more games like that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You can switch around. Everybody, it takes like no time to download on your phone. It's really cool.
That's That's fun. We could spend a whole hour just talking about our favorite games. To make this really confusing, I have 2 Oculus Quests also, but I have the original version, which still runs all the games and does really well. I think there's like 2 games that are exclusive to the Oculus Quest 2, and those weren't enough to get me to buy a new one yet. But I'm just absolutely amazed, and it's actually been so popular in my family. I don't know if you guys have heard, but AMC, the movie theater chain, they have started installing these facilities in their movie theaters called Dreamscape, which is they usually take 2 or 3 of their smaller theaters and create VR environments there, and they're like real world VR stuff. So you actually walk through a room and you're looking around, you can see all the stuff, but like you have to go through a doorway. You literally walk, and as you get to the doorway, you can reach your hands out and you're actually walking through a doorway. Like it's all mapped to this physical space. There was one I played in Vegas.
Amazing.
And you walk into a room, and all of a sudden it's a Star Wars game. All of a sudden you've walked into a room, and it's open. It's a huge open room. You can see like TIE fighters in the distance and stormtroopers collecting whatever, but their base is inside of a volcano. And so as you come into that room and you turn the corner and you can see all of that stuff, it's hot. You can feel the hot air blowing on you. Like it's unbelievably amazing. And you, of course, you have a blaster also, so you can like shoot the stormtroopers and stuff. But it's so it's so much beyond immersive than like what you and I have in our houses, because it's actually a physically mapped space.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I've had ideas about this. Like if I had a bajillion dollars, I would go and buy an old shopping mall, one of the old decrepit shopping malls around America there's millions of them. You can just buy them. And I would 3D map the entire inside area. And I mean, like really finely detailed. And then make the entire thing be a VR amusement park. Like you could have it be like a space station, or you could, and people would walk around, and you could go, and everything is mapped. And so, and because the lights are real bright, and there's 1,000 cameras in there watching everybody, that you could just walk around, and it's all virtually mapped, and everything's happening. There are practical effects like a fan blowing and like mist in the air, like dinosaurs walking by. It would be great. And it's so easy because VR is it's such a simple, it's very complex, extraordinarily complex, but it's such a simple concept of you take the inside of an area and you put a bunch of cameras in there and you just map it. And now the computer knows the entire area. So you are safe to walk around in that kind of moment where you put that on, you're like, I'm okay. This is okay. I love VR. I keep waiting. I was one of those kids in the 90s that really wanted that VR system to come out and really blast into the American psyche. I wanted the Lawnmower Man to be real. Yeah. And Ryan got that one.
Try the Virtual Boy?
Yeah. Access denied. Yeah. Access denied. That's what stuck in my head there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the most amazing things I've seen so far for VR, there's 2. The first is people playing real ping pong in virtual space. So they are playing each other on a real ping pong table, but they both have the goggles on, and they're only seeing the digital representation of what's happening in front of them, but they're able to keep the ball going and do whatever.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
That's
the one I've
latency
seen
there
is 2 guys playing catch, where they're throwing a real ball back and forth.
I'd be terrified of that.
But they're only
because of the latency. Yeah. Because I'm just gonna put my hand up and it's gonna go pop.
Right. All right, I have more barking. Apparently, all the things are going to happen right now. The next question comes from Agency 2. Can you guys see that one? Like 12:36 time frame. Sorry, I got to go deal with that. I'll be right back.
My scroll bumped up around everywhere.
Yeah. I think he has more controls on these things than we do. We're just sitting here scrolling up, and he's.
Yeah, I can't even comment.
Yeah. I don't know.
One day he'll trust us enough to give us controls. Yeah, if we prove ourselves.
Oh. Connect. Oh, I loved the Connect. I always want something. I really wish that kind of tech. It was like that part of the technology took off, and then it stopped, and then another part of the technology took off, and then it stopped. And
I
it's
forgot
so weird to see
about
such a weird stutter start. And I thought the Kinect, everybody thought the Kinect was the next platform, period. Like that thing came out and we were all like, okay, well, this is clearly it.
Right.
Clearly we have moved into the new stage of gaming and it is called Kinect. And then it just stopped. It's done.
Yeah. I feel the same way about the HoloLens. It's an amazing, cool AR
Google
device.
Glass. Yeah. Which
But
I still can't pronounce. Google Glass.
Google Glass. I just feel like they were both ahead of their time.
Yeah.
And we'll see the next version of it pop up soon.
Well, as in point of fact, it was ahead of its time, and now that time is about to be. Have you heard the metaverse? Have you guys? If any of our viewers have been paying attention to this word that's been kind of bouncing around the techosphere lately, it's called the metaverse, and what that essentially is the online realm in which we all inhabit, shop, talk to our friends, go and do things, play adventures, go on adventures, play games, whatever. It's basically like Ready Player One is what. So this is not a concept that we can all just kind of talk about and hang out and drink a beer and think about. It's actually being worked on. The HoloLens is going to be used. Microsoft is building a metaverse for work. So you can have meetings, you can have architectural design meetings, like all of it virtually, and all of it with the highest end virtual reality, artwork and technology and stuff that you can put in the space. And Facebook, of course, is working on this as well. I think Mark Zuckerberg was just talking about this in an interview that I was just reading an article about this, and I can't remember the name of the publication, but he was talking about in an interview about how this is the metaverse is where we're headed. Like they're developing it. Every department at Facebook is working on the metaverse now. So like it's happening. I mean, we're gonna get it. So Ready Player One.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that goes on in a Ready Player One environment. But I think it also needs to have, like, to really get the adoption that I think people imagine Ready Player One had in their fake universe, right? It needs to be more than a game. And I think Facebook has their eye on this. It's also your social media. It's also where you shop. It's also where you do, like, it's the place you plug in when you're, like, right now, for most of us, I would guess, when you want to unwind, you crash out on the couch and you start flipping through your phone. That needs to be the thing that you do. It needs to be the place that you go crash out, which is time to strap on the helmet. Now, when you watch the people in Ready Player One, they also have those omnidirectional treadmills and vests and gloves and all the other stuff. And it's like, realistically, no one's going to put all that stuff on all the time. I just want to sit on the couch.
Yeah, and plus it's like the prescribed checkout.
Right.
So, like, no matter what, if you can't be your full self in whatever space you're occupying, then it's gonna feel like you're playing a game, like you're participating in a service that you can just take off at any point. So, like, if I go in this area and I have 5 choices to do, and they could be just scrolling on my phone or playing a video game or watching Netflix or whatever, then that's great. But like like all 5 of them personally, I have ADHD, so every one of those things are gonna be like, yeah, I'm bored. So it's I can't see, like, I can see it being great for work, to be honest. Like I could absolutely see being in a metaverse for walking around, talking to my colleagues, and we're having a big meeting, and I can draw things in the air, which is what I do anyway. I just start, as you may have noticed. So it would have been, that would be great, but like the offline where I'm just going there to hang out, unless I'm playing Skyrim, I'm not really down. I would rather be in the actual verse.
I agree.
Verse.
This world is still pretty awesome, and there's plenty I haven't seen.
I like it a lot.
But I do think, I do enjoy virtual worlds. I think they're fun, but it's not the only thing.
Yeah, I've been reading Snow Crash, which is a novel from like 1992, and it's describing exactly that. Like, right? Like this is
the first book.
What?
That was the first. Snow Crash is the first book that ever mentions the word metaverse.
Metaverse, yeah. Amazing book. But it describes this like future dystopian where like the real world just sucks, so everyone goes into the metaverse, and probably it's this this flywheel effect where the metaverse kept getting better, so the real world kept getting worse. Yeah. It's kind of it dives into all kinds of viruses and cool things like that. It's a great book, but what you're describing is like this world where you can just go and like you can be one person in the real world and have a whole different persona where you're just hanging out. You have friends there. There's a whole currency system and everything. So
yeah.
I don't know if I like this future, but it's interesting.
Right. Well, but if COVID keeps going the way it is, we're all just going to live in our houses, and that'll be the way we interact.
Yeah.
We'll have to conceal our homes.
To be honest, I just want a spaceship. I just want my own personal spaceship that I could.
All you need to do is start an e-commerce company 25 years ago.
Right.
Then,
right.
Yeah. Then you'll do it.
Just figure out how to take payments online 30 years ago, and it'll be fine.
I would start with something simple like books.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Somebody had an idea about that once. I think it was probably a pretty good idea.
Awesome.
What's interesting? So yesterday I was looking at, so I have a desk that goes up and down. What is it called? Made by this company called Autonomous. Autonomous.ai is their website.
I am also thinking about an autonomous desk.
Nice. So anyway, I love this company. And so I was thinking, I have 2 workstations now. So I was thinking about getting another one. And I noticed they have a new product on their website, which is, I think it's called a pod, which is this, it's like $20,000, but it's basically a work office shed that you can, they'll sell to you for like a work from home situation. And I just love this because like now startups and small companies are going after like the work from home model and saying like, not everyone can work in their house if they have kids and barking dogs and such, but like here, let's just deploy this thing in your backyard that you can just go there to work.
This is the best idea I've ever heard in my life.
And it's nothing new. Like you could get a shed and do this, but like this is the full kit. Like here you go. It comes with AC and everything. Like just go and do it. It's amazing. I love this direction. I love this direction.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
look it up.
Well, the reason I brought it up is I have a high school age daughter. She's 17. She just got her first job, and it's at this VR place because we've had so much experience with Oculus and all this stuff. She walked in, she's like, "Hey, I think I'd like to work here." And they're like, "You know VR?"
They're asking.
Yeah, I know VR. And so like she taught them a couple of things, and then they hired her. So
nice.
Oh.
Pretty
amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
That's pretty. Did you hear about the guys that got hired on at LucasArts because they deep faked the Luke Skywalker video better than the actual?
They fixed it. Yeah, they fixed.
They literally. They didn't just fix it. They like smoked them. They absolutely made it so much.
For those
better.
that haven't watched all the episodes of The Mandalorian, I am not included in that group, but some of our viewers.
Oh my god! I just spoiled.
We're not spoiling.
No, you can't spoil. No, come on, you can't spoil. It's the internet. Come on. If you're here, you have probably already seen 3 images by now.
All right.
You have like 1 week. You have like 1 week to like stay in the blackout zone. Past that.
I saw some behind the scenes footage just like 2 days ago. That was actually Mark Hamill that acted that scene.
Was it? That's awesome.
But it really was Mark Hamill.
Huh.
Good for him.
Super cool. What is the statute of limitations on that stuff now with all these streaming TV shows and stuff? Is it a week? How long do you have to hold off acting the spoiler?
I give it a week, to be honest. Like there is so much media, like you can't. It's like I can't be mad at people anymore. I don't fandom shame, and neither should anybody else. Actually, This is something we don't do anymore. We don't fandom shame anymore. If you like a thing, that's great. It's fine. When I was a kid, if you loved Star Wars, you hated Star Trek, and if you loved Star Trek, you hated Star Wars. And that's like, but we can't do that now. I mean, there's too much. There's a million pounds of media just squeezing out of your TV every day. There's no way to know who's going to know or see what. Agreed.
This has been awesome, guys. We're out of time. But
hey,
this is incredible. I really look forward to being able to talk not only with you guys, but all the folks in the audience and solve some problems and talk about VR. And now, Scott, we're gonna have to become become Oculus friends.
Oh yeah.
But then 2, we got to compare games. Have you played I Expect You to Die?
No.
Oh my gosh, you're missing out. One of that and Super Hot are probably my 2 top Oculus games. Please tell me you've played Super Hot.
Nope.
My head just exploded.
Okay.
We're gonna run a little long here just so I can talk about this. Thank you guys all for tuning in though. Super Hot. I want you to imagine it's really weird graphics. It's basically you in a virtual world, and there are these like guys. They humanoid, but they're just made out of like red crystal. And you start the level, and you can see that there's a guy off on your left, and there's two out front, and one of them has a gun, and then there's a guy on your right, and he has a knife. Now, the mechanic of the game that's brilliant is that the time in that world only moves when you move. So if you stand perfectly still, no controller movement, no head movement, you just stand there and you can look around, nobody will move. But if you raise your hand, time progresses and those guys start coming closer. One guy might have time to pull off a shot from his gun. Now, again, the bullet doesn't move if you're not moving. So you can stand there and be like, oh man. And so slowly but surely you can just be like dodging bullets, and like you'll grab a vase and throw it at a guy. Now they're made out of crystal. So if you hit them with anything, they explode. But you have to remember that like if I just stop moving, I'm not going to die. And it's kind of like bullet time in the Matrix. Like you can just like low blow, like, you know, miss things as they fly past you and whatever. It's brilliant. Super Hot is one of my favorite VR games by far.
Okay, I'm going to check that one out. I just got Space Pirate Trainer.
Space Pirate Trainer is another good one.
That's like everything you want VR to be.
Yes.
It is precisely what you thought you were buying.
You will never play Space Pirate Trainer again once you open Super Hot.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go down and play it today.
You know, it's awesome. So the other one, I Expect You to Die, is a lot like an escape room, except that you're a spy. So I Expect You to Die is like, I think it was in Goldfinger. He says that to James Bond. Anyway, so in this thing, you are a spy and you're in a scenario, and your goal is to try to get out of the room or out of the place or whatever. But there's always like some clever trap contrived, or you come up with some clever way to break into a room to steal a document or whatever. But it's always done as if you are just sitting. You have telekinesis. So instead of you having to walk over and grab the document, you can just reach out and it'll come to you, right? So it's a nice, like, I don't have to walk all over my house kind of VR game. But they just announced I Expect You to Die 2 is coming out later this month. I'm super excited about it.
Okay, I have 2 new games to go check out.
Yeah. So we'll have to find each other on there because it's super cool. Ryan, you don't have an Oculus, do you?
No.
That's okay.
I feel like I need one.
No, well, you totally need one, but keep in mind they don't recommend them for kids under 13.
Oh well, I got 2 of those. So
if they play for any amount of time, I guess they found that it can have effects on their vision. So they don't recommend it for kids under 13. I don't think that you need to wait for 13.
Slight monsterism.
Yeah. My son started playing when he was 11. But I feel like, you know, you've got young ones, right? Not even kindergarten and fourth grade? First grade.
4th grade and kindergarten.
Yeah, 4th grade and kindergarten. So that might be a little young yet, but keep your eye on it because they're quite awesome.
And they would never let me have that in the house, and only Dad can play with that. Like that's
right.
There's no way. So
pretty cool is that you can cast it to your TV so that people can see what you're seeing, which is also
true. Fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Beat Saber. That's what whenever we have our friends come over, they play Beat Saber, and they'll stand face to face so that they're not only mirroring each other in real life, but like we can also watch it on TV. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I love that. Milton Huang wants to know, what distribution of time do you spend playing games? Mine is very low. A couple hours a week, maybe. And that's probably on the high end. Yeah, not nearly enough. I agree.
You know, we're talking about like the media, the amount of media that is out there nowadays. I used to be able to, this is a very good question. I used to absolutely have a time in my week where I would play video games and it was no big deal.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't have to play video games to live, and it's fine. I got lots of stuff to do, but like there are so many games now that are so amazing, absolutely incredible games that you spend months and months on. Like the most avid gamers spend months on. Right. I mean, they just re-released Mass Effect, the Mass Effect Trilogy Legendary Edition, which I have, of course, been spending every waking moment in again. Right. And it's, you know, like there are too many games out there now that are too good. I don't have time for this.
There needs to be there needs to be a working adult mode in video games.
Yeah.
Because you picked it up and you played it this weekend. Maybe you played for like 8 hours on Saturday. but then you didn't touch it again for 2 weeks. When you load the game back up, it needs to be like, oh, you haven't been here in 2 weeks. Here's all the stuff you need to remember in order to continue this adventure.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Right?
Like progressing time. Like, here's all the stuff you missed.
Right.
Like,
I totally forget what I was doing. I don't want to play anymore. Right.
That's actually a really great idea. That's kind of surprising because I thought always what happens. Like I'll jump in, I'll go into my old Skyrim save games and I'll load up like a game I played like 8 years ago and I have no idea what's going on with this person. And I've got the weirdest like loadouts and strange like enchanted items and stuff. And that's a great idea. Wow.
All right. With that, I think we're going to wrap up for today. This has been fantastic. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Please keep coming with your questions. We're always happy to answer them. And hopefully we helped a few people today. With that, Ryan and Scott, thank you guys so much for the conversation, and we will see you guys all this week.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.